listening to the DFS On Deck podcast, brought to you by LineStar, the top-rated DFS tool set and #1 companion for DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo Daily Fantasy. Go LineStar Premium now at LineStarApp.com. Now, here are your hosts, fantasy baseball experts Joe Pisapia and Chris Meaney.
Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and welcome to On Deck right here on the LineStar app. It's me, it's Chris Meaney, and it's the weekend edition, baby. We got afternoon games, we got night games, we got everything you can imagine. I'm sure there'll be some weather in there, too. It's going to ruin some weekends, but we're going to give you the preview and everything you need to know to do the right thing. There you go. How's that for a start? Boy,
it's the weekend, baby.
It's the weekend, and I had a little bit too much fun on vacation this week. I told you. Too much butterbeer at the Harry Potter experience. And
sounds amazing.
That's right. I'm a wizard. Did you know that, by the way? I actually got accepted to Hogwarts, but I decided to turn pro instead. It was a whole big thing. I decided not to go to school and just bypass and went straight to being a wizard because that's where the money is, Chris.
A DFS wizard.
Yeah, right. That's a good. You know what? I'm just glad that you and I are one of those teams that doesn't have like a witty nickname between them. Like, you know, it's like I'm not a guru or a wizard or a DFS maven or no disrespect to any of those fake doctors or fake whatever's out there.
I was gonna go there. Oh man, one of my first interviews.
I'm the doctor of baseball, fantasy doctor this or.
Yeah, one of my first interviews in fantasy, I was interviewing an expert after one of their big experts drafts, and I introduced him as their real name. That was a mistake.
That was a mistake. There you go. We put our real names attached to these things. You know why? Because we're not afraid. That's right. That's right. We are not, and we are not afraid because scared money don't make money. We're going to make some. So let's start with Saturday, Chris. Let's start with the afternoon games, too. At 2 o'clock, we got Jose Barrios locking up with the Orioles and Dan Straley. Barrios is going to be chalk in the afternoon slate and cash. I'm fine with it. I got no issue in this whatsoever. Barrios at home. Sign me up. I'm good. Chalk it up. Maybe you win some money with the right situation there, but he's my favorite pitcher of the afternoon. How about you?
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Well, because Strasburg's on there too, and so is Glass now, but he is going against the Red Sox. But...
Yeah, no, it's just such a good matchup, Joe. That's what it's all about. Yeah, I agree with you there. And, you know, again, you have to look at the other pitcher, and Minnesota bats are going to be expensive. They're going to be chalky, but for Straley, 14 innings, 21 hits, 14 earned runs, 7 homers, 6 walks, and only 6 strikeouts.
You might just go Twins. You might just get a Twinkie lineup in there. It's gonna be tough to do, but like we talked about on Friday's show, maybe you take some of the lesser Twins in there. Maybe you take the Kepler instead of the Polanco. Maybe you're taking those guys, the auxiliary guys that are going to just be byproducts of the good offense, especially against a weak pitcher like Straley. But looking at the other cash game guys on the slate, we have Glass now going up against Boston. Price was bumped on Friday night to Saturday, and look. I mean, in terms of Glass now, he's been brilliant. I mean, it's hard to argue.
Great, yeah.
And I have no worries about sending him out there against the Red Sox, but it's not as safe a cash game play as Barrios. So I'm sorry, it's just not. And Strasburg, God bless him, you know, like he's always that guy. The matchup is decent on paper against Lauer and the Padres, but I'm not running out there to have him over Barrios either.
No, Barrios he's the play. And again, he's got the best matchup head-to-head in terms of pitchers. You know, his offense is going to do enough to give him some support, and he's just been good anyways. And, you know, over the course of his short career, he's been really good at home. So I like that as a cash game play, as a tournament play, and hammer the Twins on the money line. Pick them by 2 if you want to get better odds. Like, they're going to be able to score some runs, and they have a good shot to get a W here.
All right, now where are you looking in terms of stacks in the afternoon, too? Are we going back to the well with the Blue Jays against Brett Anderson and the Vlad Guerrero train continuing to roll? Are we going to go to the Nationals against Eric Lauer? Or are we going to, you know, kind of roll into, maybe, dare I say, we go back into the Philadelphia well if you get that into the 6 o'clock hour game that sometimes is, depending on how they chop that up, also in play in the afternoon. How do you feel about these stacks out there in the afternoon Saturday games?
I'm gonna go the other way in the Toronto and Oakland. I know we were heavy Jays on Friday, but I'm gonna be heavy A's against Aaron Sanchez. And
That's
you look
fair.
at Sanchez, and yeah, you see some numbers there. I mean, so far 2.77 ERA, but his xFIP is near 5. The walks 5.54 walks per 9. Last year 4.97. Actually, his career is 3.9. So he's struggled with the walks. He's not getting those strikeouts. He's not missing a lot of bats. An 82% contact rate for his career and 80 so far this year. So I'm going to go the other way and try to get some Oakland bats in there. You know, Chris Davis is going to obviously have an opportunity to go yard. Chapman, to see who we can get on top of the order. Pinder usually plays against lefties, but Simeon's been in there. So I'll go Oakland. I think there'll be some offense there as well.
I'll tell you what, my tournament guy too, just, looking at pitcher wise as we go through, I think J Happ is a real opportunity here.
Definitely.
And he was better in his last start against the Angels, although it's a lefty against the Angels, which is one of the themes of our program until it changes otherwise.
Right.
That first start was, awful against the White Sox. We all know that. It wasn't thrilling against Boston, not what you would hope for. But, the last start against the Angels where he gave up 2 earned runs, struck out 5 guys. This is a national league here. He's going to have the pitcher, and it's not Bumgarner he has to face. I think Happ is the tournament guy here on the Saturday afternoon slate for me personally. And Bieber, you can also make a case for that. The tough thing is, it is that Houston lineup. So if you're going to be a little contrarian, you got to be concerned about taking the lumps and worrying whether or not Cleveland can compete enough offensively still. And Lindor is back. Do you think they can compete enough offensively with Lindor back in the lineup and hopefully, things going in the right direction against Peacock and the Astros?
Yeah, I do. They're not near the top. I love the Happ call. I mean, the Giants striking out 25% against lefties, the third worst WOBA against lefties. It's in a great ballpark. So I like that Happ call for him to get right. And yeah, there are some Cleveland bats have been going to. Like Lindor has been pricey from day one since it's been up. But Jose Ramirez is still a little bit of a value, a discount. He's hitting the ball well. And you said it, right? Is it the second that they got Cargo in that lineup, we knew it was eventually going to.
Right, just getting another professional hitter in there, just kind of cleaning it up. Well, that's the problem with the Yankees.
You're right.
All these guys that are quad A guys. I mean, a guy like Carlos Gonzalez in the middle of that order just helps a little bit. It just helps kind of bridge the gap until you get everybody where they're supposed to be a little bit.
Listen, I'm not crazy about stacking Miami, but I also don't think Jake Arrieta he's one of those better real-life pitchers than a fantasy guy. He doesn't strike out a lot of people. He walks guys. He does keep the ball on the ground, but another one who's his xFIP much higher than his ERA. He's been pretty lucky. Like I said, not getting those strikeouts and just the contact rate is pretty high for him. So I know it's tough to, Miami's going to score some runs, but maybe you just don't go all in on a guy like Arrieta. Maybe you just spend up on a J Happ, or obviously take the chalk and Barrios. But for me, I think it could be an opportunity just to maybe get a Castro or a Walker in there, just a cheap bat who's they're going to make contact.
That is fair, especially in that ballpark. There's always opportunity for home runs. A very home run friendly ballpark. All right, so the night slate, you've got some big names. You got Noah Syndergaard on the slate taking on Woodruff and the Brewers. You've also got Clayton Kershaw back again against the Pirates. It's going to be a great matchup. You're going to have to pay through the nose for that one. You got Mike Minor, who's been very good trying to pitch his way out of Texas and doing a very good job of that as well. You love him probably in that mid-range salary. And you get Foltynewicz back against the Rockies. So a lot going on here in the evening on Saturday. I'm curious, where does this take you when you see these names? And let me throw in the caveat that I watched Syndergaard's last start, and he was getting squeezed all over the place. So if you see the line you don't love, very inefficient, whoever was behind the plate that night, I forget who it was, actually it was the day game against St. Louis. It was terrible. I mean, the strike zone calling was absolutely awful. He should have been out of many of those innings early on. So keep that in mind. If you see a bad last start, that might actually be an opportunity for Syndergaard.
Yeah, I think he's I'm thinking about him as a tournament play. I wonder.
I like that.
Yeah, people are going to definitely. You look at the Brewers lineup, you see the potential, and you see some of the struggles from Syndergaard, even though the strikeouts have still been there for him. So he can rack up a few Ks. I think it's a strong tournament play. It's hard not to like Kershaw in this matchup. I know super chalky, very expensive, but the Pirates striking out the most against lefties. Yeah, they're getting some guys back in their lineup, and their lineup will improve. Their offense will improve.
Well, and Musgrove is pitching tonight too.
Yeah,
on Saturday.
Yeah,
so that's one of those things too. Musgrove's been terrific.
Yeah,
I wonder if the theme of Saturday is, if you're going to play, if you're going to play tournaments, maybe you go with the Minor and the Musgrove and you play for the upsets here a little bit, and you go that route because there are guys like Kershaw on there, and if you get Musgrove to beat Kershaw, all of a sudden that's a huge swing in your favor.
Right. I mean, this is one of those, and I had this conversation actually with Greg when you were gone. We talked about, because we had some feedback about Cash, like it was a brutal pitching slate. You don't have to play Cash. Like if you're a Cash game player, maybe you take the night off from Cash, or maybe you just sprinkle in some tournament lineups and you get a guy like Syndergaard who's in a tough spot, who can get low ownership, and a guy like Musgrove who people are not going to be on because he's going up against Kershaw. Because I'm looking around, like Ronaldo Lopez is a huge fly ball pitcher who has struggled. We know John Gray has had his issues with walks and home runs. And the Kansas City matchup and Lopez and Berea, like those guys are fly ball pitchers. Darvish hasn't been able to get it right. Godley's at home who struggled with home runs, is in a tough matchup. Mike Leake is an extreme contact guy who gets lit up all the time. And then there's Mike Minor in Seattle is destroying lefties this year. So where are you going to go? And Foltynewicz is probably not going to give you 5-6 innings in this first start of the year.
No, I don't think he will.
Colorado. So it's a tough pitching slate. So tournament only, and you're going to be able to get guys like Syndergaard with a low ownership. And that's key.
Yeah, I think it's a low ownership for Syndergaard, and you'll probably get Musgrove at a discount. And when you look at how good Musgrove's been this year, I think I take it, and I think I fly with it. I really do. I think there's opportunity there with him and Minor as well against Mike Leake, who you mentioned, and maybe that also brings in Texas into play too. Those bats we talked about Mazzara on yesterday's show at the 2-home-run game. You hope he starts heating up a little bit. I think Texas is in play for sure there. And like you said, also really killed the John Gray thing too with the Braves. I think that the Braves are certainly in play. And we didn't really highlight too much about Darvish and Zach Godley too. Probably a fair amount of offense in that one also. So probably if you're just looking for high total, I think the Cubs and Diamondbacks is probably where you want to go. But as much as I want to go and attack Ronaldo Lopez, I can't because the Tigers they're that bad.
I know.
I tried them. I tried it. I took a taste of the Tigers and was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. Even Castellanos, who's still pretty good return on investment, but they just haven't been good enough. And Cabrera, still waiting for him to really come alive.
Do we jump on Lopez then? I'm just looking. His last start actually came in Detroit. He went 6 innings. He gave up 7 hits, 2 earned runs. He had 8 strikeouts. Like he does strike guys out.
Well, that is
25 innings.
That is the ultimate. You're gonna go out there and you're gonna throw some money on the wall. Maybe I think what I think that's the one you do with Syndergaard.
Yes,
or that's the one if you're pairing up with Kershaw. You want to do that, and you go up to some big bats there. If you really feel Detroit's that bad and Lopez ownership is going to be just rock bottom, I can get behind that one. I really can. It's
the only start where he hasn't walked a guy. He's had 5 starts. He's
such an indictment on Detroit. It really is.
Right. Yeah, it is. Like like I said, he can strike guys out, but it's the walks, right? So he had 0 walks and 0 home runs allowed. He can't say that about any other start. I mean, look at his starts: 4 walks, 4 walks, 4 walks, 2. He had a game against Seattle. He gave up 3 bombs, followed it up with 3 bombs against Tampa. Pitched against the Royals, gave up a bomb. So I mean, maybe he found something in his last start against Detroit. He had some success. So yeah, maybe in DraftKings, I think I've talked myself into it. Syndergaard and Lopez or Kershaw and Lopez. I think it's a good 1-2 punch.
I don't think it's bad either. And make sure you get the right Lopez in your lineup too. Just want to end up with the wrong Lopez. All right, so let's go over to Sunday's games here. Let's talk about the 1 o'clocks. You got Chris Sale on the slate against Tampa. Still waiting to find out who that pitcher is going to be for the Rays. Also, you've got Kevin Gausman for the Braves, who's pitched pretty well since he's been back from injury, going against the Colorado Rockies. In the 1 o'clock slate, you also have Matthew Boyd, who's had a pretty good start to the season. But, again, that Tiger lineup, the run support has not been there. Sonny Gray, another guy who's been better than I could have imagined.
I was actually looking into his numbers last night.
I hate giving him credit, but he has. And then you got Jack Flaherty, who I know is one of your boys. But take me through this one. What side of the Sonny Gray, Jack Flaherty matchup do you like more? I personally like Sonny Gray, and I can't believe I'm saying that. But I feel like Sonny Gray is actually the safer play in this one.
I mean, he has been pretty good. I very surprised with that.
He's not getting W's, but
he's not getting W's, but it's not because he's not getting the run support. I'm on the Flaherty side. I know he's going to be more expensive. His last start was very encouraging. I mean, he's faced Milwaukee 3 times. I mean, that's so tough to do. I mean, he faced them twice in Milwaukee, faced them 2 times in a row, and he racked up 10 strikeouts in his last start in 6 innings against them. So the strikeouts are going to be there. The Reds are striking out. Their offense is sputtering. I do like them to eventually turn around, but I'll lean Flaherty on that side. I think Sonny Gray is as good as he's been, and I'm with you. It's been very surprising. I think it's going to come crashing.
Well, Gausman to me is that guy in the middle that I like. Where if you don't want to risk Sonny Gray, then Gausman, Braves at home. you like that matchup there. I know Colorado's a very good lineup, especially now with Murphy back. That lineup's gotten longer now, and Dahl. I still think Gossman is that good of a pitcher, and I was very high on him last year. My question, I think the biggest question of the Sunday slate is, where do you put Chris Sale in your mind? Because the last outing was good.
Yeah, it was good.
And now he's facing the Tampa team, who's been very good. However, that's a lineup that there are some strikeouts in as well. So putting it out there, let's say that price is, it's normal Chris Sale price. You're not getting a discount. Do you feel good about throwing him out there? I think the answer is yes for me, because I think that the ownership will still be not as high as it should be necessarily on Sale.
Yeah, and I'm curious with this price because we had the rain out game on Monday, and he was like the 9th price pitcher on the board. I couldn't believe it. Like, he was definitely going to have a high ownership, but it was warranted. Yeah, you mentioned the Rays, a 30% strikeout rate, tied for the most against lefties with the Pirates. So it's a great opportunity for Sale. He had 10 strikeouts his last outing. The velocity was up. So yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at this main slate and I'm seeing, or the early slate, he's the best pitcher by far. Like, we're looking at Boyd, and yeah, he's been really good. Where's the run support going to come? We don't know who's pitching for Tampa. He's probably going to come out. Stanek, maybe he gives you 1 inning, 2 innings. So I think it's a good opportunity for Sale. He's not going to be priced where he was opening day. Like, you're still going to get a discount.
In the 1 o'clocks on Sunday, or should I say the early games on Sunday, collectively, where are you looking for offense? I know Matt's was not good his last time out. Are we going to go to the Brewers here, even though it's a lefty? Or are we going to go and stick with the Twins against the Orioles, which is, always a pretty safe bet?
Yeah, Bundy is their worst pitcher by far. Yep. So, high fly ball rate, home runs. Twins bats are going to be pricey, but I'm going to like them. I like some of these Braves, again, against a lefty and Tyler Anderson, Albies, Markakis, Donaldson's bats starting to heat up. I think that's going to be a strong stack as well. And I'll go to some of these Washington bats. I know Zimmerman has been disappointing, but he can hit lefties pretty well. So I will have a little bit of exposure to some Nats. But yeah, it's the Twins, man. Like, don't shy away, guys, because it's going to be chalk and they're pricey. There's going to be enough value here. Use the LineStar app. They're really good at just determining value. They've been dead on with a lot of their value plays so far this season, and the Twins are just going to be able to have success. They just went through this exact rotation a week ago and destroyed them.
I'm going to try to separate on Sunday, too, and just do 1 o'clocks, because I don't like the 4 o'clocks at all. Quintana was good. We were on the Quintana and Darvish train when everybody was playing the Marlins, and we were right all over there. Mm-hmm. Quintana's been better, but still in Arizona, still a little tricky there. I like it. I don't love it. Herman's another one of these guys who's sometimes he gives you a great outing, sometimes not. I think it's very trappy on a Sunday afternoon. Herman, National League, okay, but it's not the same old Yankees run support-wise. I know he was decent his last start. I'm not loving that one either. You got Lance Lynn and Swanson. It just feels like a whole lot of offense. Even in the last one, too, you get Rich Hill coming back here against Trevor Williams. Williams a much better real-life pitcher than a fantasy pitcher.
Definitely.
There's nothing here that gets me excited at all in these 4 games that are in the 4 o'clock hour. I would think separate. Don't play the all day. Just play the 1 o'clocks and try to keep some of those offensive performances out of the 4 o'clock games that could mess you up.
Yeah, well said. Sunday's always a tricky day, guys, to play DFS too. You got to get a little creative with your lineups and crazy because the guys
you get a lot of guys out. You get the secondary catchers, and sometimes those are opportunities. I
to jump on value.
Talk about that. Yeah, talk about those guys when you get the day games after the night game, and you get those secondary catchers out there too. Catcher's one of these things, especially, now you don't have to worry about it on FanDuel, but on the DraftKings side, it's still there. It's still staring us in the face like kickers used to. And I think when you look at it, you try to – are you somebody that just uses that as who's playing, who's the cheapest, and punt on it? Or are you somebody that really tries to find the guy who's got the decent matchup and really care about it a little bit more? Maybe you pay another couple $100 for what you think might be the better matchup.
Yeah, a little bit of both, to be honest with you.
Well, that's fair. That's a fair answer.
On Sunday, I try to find value of guys, like you said, that don't get in the lineup every single day. And guys, usually you'll see a good 5 or 6 throughout the course of the year. I bet you on average, you'll see a good 5 or 6 guys who will probably be in the top 15 in terms of pricing. So they're good hitters. Just get the day off. and whether it's a platoon guy, like for example, Steve Pearce comes in. We've mentioned him numerous times when they're facing a lefty, he just jumps into the lineup. He's in the 3 spot and he checks in at just like dirt cheap. So I think there's always an opportunity for some of those guys, to pay up for. You mentioned Herman, and you're right. It does seem like a little bit of a trap, but looking at all of these pitchers, he may be my favorite one on the board just because of the fact he can strike guys out, and the Giants have a lot of guys.
I think by comparison, yeah. But
yeah. We got Homer Bailey and Matt Harvey facing each other today.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about it, because there's 2 guys to talk about. One is Lucchesi, and the other guy is Homer Bailey. And Homer Bailey's been very good. This is another guy, too. You leave him for dead or whatever it is, and you go, oh, whatever. And then all of a sudden he has that 1 inning start where he gets bombed. Yeah. And the ERA flies up. But before that, against the Yankees, 6 innings, 6 Ks, 1 earned run. And against Cleveland, which, again, these aren't the regular old Cleveland and Yankee lineups, but still 7 innings, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, no earned runs. So although he's, you look at the ERA and you kind of run the other way, outside of that Tampa game that really kind of tainted it, Homer Bailey's been pretty decent this year.
He has. He's been getting some strikeouts. Like, the strikeouts are there. I'm not buying in. I know the Angels
not either, but I think it's worth at least noting. And I guess the hard part is too. Maybe the question is, would you buy in, considering it is the Angels, and because that lineup outside of Trout is not very good?
Yeah, you're right. It's not very good, and it's a good spot for them. But at the same time, like, the Angels just don't strike out. Like, they have the highest contact rate in baseball. Right. It's amazing to think that they just.
They don't strike out and they don't generate much.
They don't do anything with the hits.
Yeah.
So there is an opportunity to spend down, and that Harvey is not going to be able to limit the damage himself, even against the Royals lineup. He's just not missing any bats. So there is an opportunity maybe to be a little contrarian here with a GPP option, considering the fact that Bailey, only pitched 1 inning last time out and was rocked. So there is a slight opportunity. I think there's going to be some spots this year where we can talk about Bailey. Maybe it's at home like this one, in a pitcher-friendly ballpark because he's
going to get dealt
fly balls,
right?
This
way. I think that's one thing you can count on for sure. And then Lucchesi is another guy too against Hellickson, who I think is, by comparison to some of the other Nationals pitchers, beatable. But also you're getting probably the lesser Nationals lineup on a Sunday. I think Lucchesi is another one guy who has strikeout potential, who's going to be a little bit cheaper than some of the other guys, and I think certainly worth exploring as well on Sunday.
Yeah, especially if Rendon has been out of the lineup. So if Rendon sits on Sunday, or, Robles sits, or maybe even Soto, if one of those, what I mean? Then all of a sudden you're like, that's an example of okay, well, I see I'm going to jump on him, because
if they sit Soto in that lineup against Lucchesi, that's something that I would pay attention to, and I would have some shares there. I think that would be a very wise thing to do. Look, we already talked about the Twins this weekend being, what we like for sure. We definitely are on them. We are certainly talking about on the opportunity there with Musgrove on Saturday night, and Syndergaard as well, and Minor. Those are some pitchers there that you can really take advantage of in the night slate when you're separating them out. On the Sunday, we're looking at it, and it looks more like you want to play the 1 o'clocks and just kind of let the 4 o'clocks go. If you can do that, that's probably the best practice, I think. Anything else weekend-wise that you want to note here for our listeners, Chris, that you see either trend-wise or maybe even stack-wise to pay attention to as things go on?
Not really from just what you said. I'm going to continue, guys, with Minnesota, whether that's hammering the over, picking them by 2, stacking some of their bats. If you're in a home run pool, it's all good opportunity for the Twins to continue to have success. Their bats have woken up because they just faced this pitching staff. But yeah, that's really about it. Oakland on Saturday I like is an option, and yes, Sundays, just keep an eye on lineups, guys. We're always available on Twitter. You want to reach out to us?
Absolutely. And Saturday too with Jay Happen. I want to reaffirm that
good
too.
Call.
In the National League ballpark there. Hap was better last time out. He will continue to get better. And in season long too, if you're playing in season long leagues, when some of the stuff we're talking about, it matters too. Trend wise, try to be ahead of it. Try to be on some of these guys, trying to acquire them, whether it's a Homer Bailey before he gets dealt, especially if they have 1 inning bad start, whether it's Jay Happ, who's got a rough start, certainly when you look at his April so far. But, guys that will be better as it goes on. Happ, I think, is one of those guys. He pitched very well for the Yankees last year, and I think he will be. But look, it's a weekend where I think there are certainly investments you can make on the safe side with the Kershaws, with the Barrioses, and if you just want to go that route. If you want to get a little fancier, I think Minor, I think Musgrove, those are two for me for sure. And that Cubs Diamondback series, I think there's going to be some
A lot of
offense
runs.
A lot of runs there. I think that's the one where I've got my most attention on. So if you want more help besides us in the podcast, make sure you are downloading the LineStar app and you are using it to use the optimizer and all the tools on there. It's just fantastic. And when you do, make sure you upgrade as well and get that premium package because that is absolutely fantastic. I mean, gives you the best return on investment, guys. It helps you optimize all your lineups, helps you go through, find the stats that you need, and it's all right there for you. It's super user-friendly to get in there and plug around with and incredibly helpful, too. We've brought some of those names over on the podcast. We go through it. So on Monday, we'll do that same thing again as we'll bring our information. We'll bring information from the app. And when you use everything together, it's a win, baby. And that's what we're all about.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's a tool on there that I just actually came across, the dashboard tab, where you can look at the lineups and it shows you the pricing. It'll update when lineups are in there. But what I like about because I think it's going to be a tricky weekend in terms of weather, right? Where the Friday
it's another one with weather. So, look, we're recording this before the weekend really launches. So we can get you some information out there for the entire weekend as like a bonus show. But Chris is right. Make sure you're paying attention to, obviously, any twists and turns that happen on that East Coast weather swing.
They got an hourly there. I mean, they'll tell you right through from 5 to 6 o'clock to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10. And they got the wind direction, the chance of precipitation, and, the risk of, rolling out some guys in that lineup. So it's definitely you're going to want to pay attention to the dashboard tool.
All right. You can follow us on the Twitter machine at Joe Pisapia 17, at Chris Meaney, and, of course, at LineStar App. And that'll do it for us. We have a great weekend of baseball ahead of us. More Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You got NFL draft stuff going on. It's a great sports weekend, and we hope you're playing DFS and having a good time as well. We'll be back again Monday to rock and roll with you as always. And there's only one thing left to do, and that's step out of the box and go yard. We'll see you next time, kids.